once again. It's the Horror Guys.
Here once again to talk about some horror movies.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And
boy, we've got some gems this week.
Yeah.
They're timeless. We can't call them classic, I guess.
Oh, yeah, we can call them classic.
We can call them classic? Okay. Yeah.
Well,
not award winners.
You know, this is mid-August.
Not the Academy Awards, maybe the, Turkey Awards.
Oh, there's some award winners here, yes.
There's some award winners, yeah.
You know, August is a couple months away from October, and everybody saves up their good horror movies to release in October.
Uh-huh.
So this week we decided to go the other way. Let's find the bottom-of-the-barrel horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
At least the ones that are kind of fun to watch. There's a lot far worse out there than these.
Yeah, there's a difference. I mean, there's some that are just bad.
These are
a good bad.
If you look at the worst horror movies of all time lists, these are going to be on it.
Mm-hmm.
But to be totally honest, these were from the 1950s and 60s when the big studios were putting a lot of effort and a lot of money and big stars into movies. These were pretty lame compared to those.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to some of the indie stuff that comes out today, people filming on their phones and stuff,
some of that is
these are gems.
Just atrocious.
Yeah,
there's a difference between atrocious and it's hard to explain. But
the bottom of the barrel in 1957 is not the same as the bottom of the barrel in 2023.
True. Yeah.
Okay, so these are sort of legendary bad films.
There you go.
First, we'll get to the head of things with The Brain That Wouldn't Die from 1962. Jan in a Pan.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
You've seen it. You know what it's about.
Uh-huh.
Then we'll watch the infamous Plan 9 from Outer Space from 1957.
And
starring Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, starring Bela Lugosi. Yeah. They made a mighty entertaining movie, Ed Wood.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that it talks a lot about the behind the scenes of what went into this with the guy Ed Wood, the director who wrote and directed and produced and did all the stuff for the movies.
Okay, I saw it way back in the day, but did Ed Wood, was that actually a biography, a serious kind of biography with some funny bits in it, or was it just a comedy based on him?
It was based heavily on reality. Of course, it's a movie, so they spice things up.
Yeah, they played it up a lot.
He really was that weird and colorful, and had weird friends, and he was a transvestite, and there were a lot of real aspects that they used in the Ed Wood movie. That he was just an odd character.
Okay. Well, after Plan 9, then we'll hide from 1959's The Killer Shrews, and then we will clap silently for Manos, The Hand of Fate from 1966. Yes, this is the week of the greats.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones we're going to talk about here. In addition, over at horrorbulletin.com, our free weekly newsletter, we're going to also talk about two more sort of legendary stinkers. 1940's The Ape, with Boris Karloff. He puts on a monkey suit, literally, and terrorizes the neighborhood.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, but that was actually kind of good, too.
Yeah, all of these are kind of good in their own ways. Yeah. They're all entertaining, at least. Yeah. None of these are just Skinamarink level.
Mm-hmm. You always throw that in, don't you?
Yeah, I was really impressed with that. And then one that I remembered being really terrible, but when we watched it, it wasn't so bad after all. Basket Case from 1982.
What's in the basket?
Oh, you know. If you've seen it, you know.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I saw that at the drive-in when it came out, and I remember it being cheap and dirty and tacky and dumb.
I saw it later. I didn't see it when it came out.
The sets are dirty and cheap and tacky, but
they're supposed to be.
That's what makes it good.
Yeah, it's meant to be that way.
Okay, so yeah, this week we're going to talk about, starting with
The Brain That Wouldn't Die from 1962.
Directed by Joseph Green, written by Doris Brent and Joseph Green, stars Jason Evers, Virginia Leith, Anthony LaPena, and Adele Lamont. Hour and 22. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, it's a pretty awful movie at its core, with lots to pick apart. It really does. It's got a lot going on there that you can laugh at.
Yes.
On the other hand, it does have a story that makes sense. They're trying hard, and it is a fun watch. So you may be reluctantly entertained if you watch it. Yeah, I saw this when I was like 5, and I'm like, wow, that thing in the door is scary.
It was back then.
I wish that head on the desk would shut up and let's see that thing more.
Yeah. Well, spoilery? Shall I spoil it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, we open on a pair of father and son surgeons. The operation is a failure and the patient dies. Now, Dad, do I have permission to do things my way? He's dead. I can't do any harm.
Oh, good. He's dead. I get to play with him.
Well, they cut the dead man's brain open. I mean, they cut off his skull, and his chest and massage his brain and heart. Well, the man's heart restarts. It's not clear why he's being operated on to begin with, but he's going to survive now.
Well, his heart stopped and he died and they restarted it.
But did they fix what was wrong?
We don't know what was wrong.
There was no mention of, and there were no signs of any other incisions or anything. They cut, they had to cut his chest open to get to the heart. And yeah, okay, whatever. He's better now.
Don't think about it. Don't think about it.
Like so many things in this movie.
He's an unorthodox doctor with new, untested procedures.
That's right. Some things that man was not meant to do.
Oh, don't go there.
Yeah. Well, the older doctor, Dan Kortner, says, well, what about side effects? He warns about experimenting on people. But Bill, the younger doctor, says he's getting really advanced with transplanting body parts.
Which has nothing to do with the surgery we just saw.
Right, yeah. But this was, in 1962, transplants were really not much of a thing. They really still were working on getting those. So, well, Nurse Jan comes in, and she's Bill's fiancée. They're going to go up to Bill's cabin lab in the woods. Well, they get a call from Curta, who's up in the cabin. Something has gone wrong up there. They must come right away. Well, they rush up to the country home. Bill is driving like a maniac and crashes.
Boy, is he driving fast.
Yeah, it's an emergency. Well, he's thrown clear, but Jan is burned alive in the wreckage. But he takes a piece of her home with him, her head.
He doesn't cut the head off. It's just sort of laying there.
Yeah, he just kind of reaches in and takes it, and yeah. Well, he runs the rest of the way to the cabin, but the cabin turns out to be a huge mansion, and Kurt lets him in.
Yeah, they talk about the cabin in the woods with the lab in it.
Yeah,
and we get up there, and it's like Frankenstein's castle or something.
Yeah,
it's huge.
It's gigantic, yeah. Well, Kurt wants Bill to look in the closet. That's what the big emergency was. But Bill insists they have to get ready for emergency surgery. He's got her head. Well, before long, we see that Jan's head is on a plate in the lab, still alive, hooked up to tubes and bubblies and things. Well, she mumbles in her sleep, "Let me die." Bill has been working on transplants, like he said, so he can find her another body, even better than before. Kurt thinks he's a madman. What about her soul? Well, Bill thinks they can keep the head alive for at least 40 or 50 hours till they get a body. Kurt complains about his withered arm, an early experiment in transplantation that failed. Bill finally looks in the closet, where something is locked inside and is making inhuman noises. He's horrified at the sight of it and insists that Kurt keep the door locked. So we got a monster in the closet, which, why is this an emergency? Must come up here. He's getting restless or something. I mean, he's in the closet.
He's in the closet. He's not hurting anybody. He's safe. I mean, Kurt, what's the deal?
But Kurt called Bill and said, "You got to get up here right away," for some reason. I don't know. Yeah. Well, Bill goes to town and visits a strip club looking for bodies. One of the strippers does a slow dance for Bill. As he flirts with the blonde stripper, Jan wakes up in the lab. "Let me die." She keeps saying that. A brunette stripper comes in and interrupts Bill's action. He ends up leaving both of them, since one mentions that he's so memorable. The two strippers have a catfight after he leaves.
Yeah, there's a witness who says, "Oh, I'll remember you were here."
And we watched the extended version that had a little more of the catfight than, I guess there's a version out there that doesn't have as much of that.
Oh, yeah. It was really, it added a lot to the movie.
Well, Jan talks to the thing inside the closet. It communicates by knocking on the door to her questions, and she finds out that she's not the first experiment they've done. She asks if it wants to get back at them, and it does. "Together, we'll wreak our revenge."
Oh, it's an evil head on a plate.
Yep. Well, they work together to scare Kurt, who spills the beans on all of Bill's work on transplants. Kurt only helps Bill because he hopes he can get a new arm out of the deal. Jan demonstrates that she can control the creature behind the door, and Kurt runs out. Well, the next morning, Bill's on the prowl for more women. He finds an old friend, Donna, on the side of the road. She invites him to a bathing beauty contest that he can help judge. Still, she gets in the car with him. Except, and I'm thinking, oh, he's going to use Donna. Except Donna's friend Jean horns in and wants a ride too. He just can't get a woman alone. Well, Bill knows he can't take either of them since there'd be a witness. Although they go to the beauty contest and there are 5 finalists. He likes what he sees, but then he remembers Doris, another old friend, who does jobs as a figure model. Well, in the meantime, Jan can read Bill's mind and knows his plans. She tells the monster in the closet. Bill goes to Doris's house. She's got a bunch of photographers there taking photos of her in the nude. She hates men now ever since her accident. She's got a badly burned face, but her body is perfect from the neck down.
Do we know anybody whose body was burned and his face is perfect from the neck up?
Yeah, we can do a little switching here. Yeah. Well, Bill says he can help her be beautiful again. He has new procedures that can fix her right up. So she agrees to go with him. She wants to call a friend to talk about her good news, but he says no, she should wait until she sees how it works out. So she goes with him. Well, meanwhile, Jan convinces the closet creature to start working on beating down the door. Can your horror match mine? She asks. The creature knocks once for yes. So we're really intrigued at what is in the closet there. Well, Kurt comes in and talks about piecing the monster together from random limbs. It's mutated since then, of course, and it's much worse than before. Well, the monster reaches through the hole in the door. There's like a peephole at eye level that's fairly big enough to put an arm through, and he literally pulls off Kurt's good arm. Kurt staggers upstairs, has the longest death scene. I mean, he just staggers all over the place. Yeah, but he can't open the door with his bad hand. So he dies as Jan cackles in maniacal glee. Yeah. Well, Bill and Doris arrive at the house. Bill goes to the lab, finds what's left of Kurt. Janet doesn't say a word, playing dumb. He lets the body lie there and fixes a drugged drink for Doris. She starts getting woozy and knows what he's done, but it's too late. I told you I'd bring you a body, he tells Jan. Jan doesn't want to hurt innocent Doris. She's not that evil. She just wants to make the guys pay for their work. Well, Bill gets prepped for surgery. You must be stopped, Jan grunts. He tapes her mouth shut, but she can still communicate with her friend in the closet. So the creature knocks at the door. Bill opens the little window. It grabs him, and the door comes right off the hinges because the creature's been working at it. The huge mutant comes out, starts a fire in the lab. Takes a fatal bite out of Bill's neck, just bites a chunk right out. And the creature grabs Doris's unconscious body and carries it out to safety. Jan says, I told you to let me die, as the flames consume her. So
there's Doris out in the woods, not knowing any idea how she got there, and this big, horrible monster is standing right next to her.
Yeah.
That's going to end well.
Who's just out in the world now. Yeah, what's he going to do?
Yeah. All right. Well, we watched the rare, in quotes, the rare uncensored version, available on Amazon Prime. And it added some previously censored gore. I think the death scene of Kurt probably was stretched out longer than it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And an extended stripper cat fight that really was not much. The nudity in Doris's photo shoot had to have been added for a more recent edition as well. We got to see full boobies there.
You got to see boobies, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you'd see that in 62.
And especially not on late night television when they were showing this too. I imagine they cut that out.
Well, there's a scene where Jan actually, I'm surprised. I'm pretty sure I would have watched this on Saturday morning TV.
Oh, okay.
And I'm surprised they kind of showed this at all with all the stripper stuff.
Well, this is my first time seeing it all the way through. I've seen clips, but this was my first time ever.
Yeah, I definitely remember watching this on Saturday Creature Features.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's a scene where Jan and Kurt talk about things that feels like it takes an hour. It's very poorly paced sometimes. Kurt takes forever to die, staggering around from room to room.
Yeah, that's some death scene.
No one ever found Bill's burned up car with a fried headless skeleton inside?
It's never mentioned.
He took Jan's head, but her body's still in the car, and it's not that far off the road.
Yeah, it would have been obvious to anybody passing by.
Yeah. The so-called porno music that plays whenever Bill is on the prowl for women is just hilariously bad.
Mm-hmm.
Jan in the Pan has become a horror icon all by herself. Actually, I saw a picture on Facebook or something the other day of somebody doing a cosplay of her.
Yeah,
It's
that
a
was
big
really
a
good.
wheeled table with a head. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it was a good job.
It's kind of an awful movie with a ridiculous plot, but she is so over-the-top evil that it's hard to resist. How does her makeup look so good when she's only a head in a pan?
Yeah, she got in the accident. He took her head, wrapped it in a cloth and carrying it around. And yeah, her makeup is perfect.
Yeah.
I don't believe that he would have taken the time to put her makeup on for her.
Next up, what's next?
Plan 9 from Outer Space, 1957. Plan 9 involves reanimating the dead.
Ooh.
Yes.
We know that because it was also known as Grave
Robert
Robbers.
from Space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, directed by Edward D. Wood Jr., also written by him, and he did a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Stars Bela Lugosi, Mela Nurmi, and Tor Johnson. And Mela Nurmi was
Vampira.
Vampira, yeah. Runtime is 1 hour and 19 minutes, and there's a trailer in the show notes.
And I did not. I mean, I know Vampira from this movie, but she had a long-running TV show before this came out, where she was a horror hostess.
Yeah, and basically she's just doing that here. I mean, it's that same costume and same look. And
There's not a single
There's no
existing
dialogue.
episode of those TV shows, so I'm not even sure if she spoke during those.
I don't know. There's no dialogue here.
She doesn't speak here. She's just creepy wandering
Yeah.
around.
And there was a lawsuit where she said that Elvira ripped her off, and I don't think anything came of it. I think Elvira came out okay in the lawsuit, but yeah, she tried claiming that Elvira just ripped her off.
Well, I can kind of see that.
Yeah, kind of. There's some real similarities in the look, and yeah.
And Tor Johnson. I mean, I remember
Big
when I was
bald
little, my
wrestler guy.
brother had that mask for Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really crappy movie, but he was so iconic looking, you can still find masks of him.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the spoiler-free judgment zone, the effects are bad, the story is bad, the acting is bad, the editing is bad. Yet you can't look away from watching it. Ed Wood did it all by himself as a rush job, and it shows. But it's a fun watch, and it did start feeling a little bit long after a while.
Okay, The Brain That Wouldn't Die, everybody makes fun of that because it's just such a goofy concept.
Mm-hmm.
This one is much more objectively bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's just not...
Threw
It's
it-
entertaining, but
he
there's not a
threw
lot
it
you can say
together.
good.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Well, we open up with Criswell doing a prediction. He had a show where he would predict things. I don't know if it was a serious fortune teller or more comedy, but he's weird.
I think it was kind of a serious fortune teller thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, he predicts future events such as these will affect you in the future. Well, that's true.
Very profound.
That's true.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He's very dramatic, that's for sure, and over the top. And we read in the trivia that he wrote his own dialogue here because he said whatever Ed Wood wrote for him was really boring.
Yeah, he narrates throughout it. He narrates. He's the voiceover.
Yeah. Well, we cut to a funeral. An old woman has died, and we see Bela Lugosi there, crying as the gravediggers wait. Meanwhile, pilots, Danny and Jeff, are flying their passenger plane, but something strange happens. There's a flying saucer out the window. We see the cooking pot lid-looking saucer descend over the cemetery as the gravediggers fill in the hole. The two gravediggers encounter a creepy-looking woman who doesn't speak. They scream. The dead woman's husband leaves his house and looks sad.
That's Bela Lugosi.
He picks one of his wife's flowers. Then he gets hit by a car off-screen and dies. His dead wife, the woman from the cemetery, watches him die.
And that was the last recorded footage of Bela Lugosi in this movie.
Yeah, it was just random footage that Wood
Kinda,
took
yeah.
of Bela Lugosi, and then he shoehorned it into the movie. He didn't speak. He didn't really do anything. He just stood at the graveyard, then came out of the house and picked a flower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Starring Bela Lugosi.
Starring Bela Lugosi, yeah. Well, Ed Wood just kind of took these bits and pieces and some stock footage and, spliced it together in a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the scary dead woman is Vampira. So I guess Bela
And that's Bela
Lugosi,
Lugosi's dead wife.
Dead wife,
has,
yeah, who's
has risen.
probably like a third his age. Just saying.
But, some guys get lucky like that, She loved him for his sense of humor.
Vampire meets vampire. Okay, well, the police then come to the cemetery to investigate the mess. The gravediggers have been torn apart. At Jeff's house, he talks about the flying saucer to his wife. He's been sworn to secrecy about it, but then it comes back and flies right over their house toward the cemetery. All the police fall down for a minute, but the sad old dead man from earlier rises from the grave as a cloaked ghoul man, and it follows Inspector Clay. The ghoul man and vampire woman attack Clay. Now,
And at this
what we
point-
just said, Bela Lugosi, that was his entire footage we already saw. This is some other guy wearing a cloak over his face.
Yeah, he's got the cloak in front of his face, Dracula style.
It's the
And,
same character, but it's definitely a different actor.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell. Yeah.
And you say Dracula style. Did Dracula ever walk around with a cloak in front of his face, really? Or is that just something from this movie that has been applied retroactively to Dracula?
I think, I
I think maybe he did it
Did
once
Bela
in the Abbott
Lugosi?
Costello movie.
yeah,
maybe once.
I think so. Yeah. And at one point, I remember Christopher Lee's character as Dracula doing it when, like somebody whips a cross out and he, does the cape in front of the face to protect himself.
Well, the police have an immediate funeral for Clay. It's like, oh, he's dead. Let's roll him over into this grave.
It was quick, yeah. So, like we said, the editing is bad.
Yeah. The vampire woman stands there watching. Not long actually, we keep calling her the vampire woman. She's not really a vampire, more of a zombie.
Yeah, zombie.
Yeah, they're all zombies in this.
she looks well.
She looks like a vampire.
Because she's a vampire. Yeah. Yeah.
Not long after, more saucers appear over Hollywood and everyone sees them. The military shoots at the saucers, and although they can't hit them, the saucers do fly away. The colonel wonders who they are and what they want. Meanwhile, on the mothership, the alien captain reports. They haven't had much luck with the Earth creatures, so they want to use Plan 9, Resurrection of the Dead. We've risen 2 so far. We'll be just as successful with more. The commander approves the use of Plan 9. Jeff and his wife try for some dramatic acting, but then the saucer flies over again. That night after Jeff leaves for work, the ghoul man chases after his wife Paula. She runs outside to the cemetery, just as Inspector Clay climbs out of his grave. Well, the saucers land, and the dead people come to the ship for orders. The police are still wandering in the cemetery, and they notice that Clay's grave is now empty as well. Do these cops ever leave the cemetery?
No, I don't think so.
Well, the general talks to the colonel about their previous attempts to contact the aliens. The general plays the translated audio recordings from Eros, one of the spacemen. They don't want to conquer the Earth, they want to save it. Still, humans are dangerous and stupid, and you may remember this word stupid, it comes up later.
Yeah, he calls them stupid a lot.
Stupid,
You're so
stupid, you're
stupid.
stupid,
Yeah.
stupid. Really? That's the best dialogue you could come up with.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, they're stupid, and they might change their minds. Colonel Edwards is ordered to contact the aliens and find out what they want. Up on the mothership, the commander tells off Eros. The plan is not going well. So far, there are only 3 resurrected dead. Clay comes in, something goes wrong, and the dead Clay almost kills Eros. The commander insists that they deactivate the oldest dead man. Well, the colonel goes off to see Paula and Jeff, and they hear something out there as the old man walks past the cop outside. He approaches the group, and Lieutenant Harper shoots him. Just then, the aliens turn off their beam, and the old man becomes a skeleton.
Now he's dead.
Eros opens up the spaceship door and lets Jeff, the colonel, and the police lieutenant inside. Tana asks Eros, "Do we have to kill them?" Jeff talks to Eros. "You fiend." Oh, that's always a good way to
Fiend.
start.
Yes.
You fiend.
I've never called anybody a fiend.
We should start.
We should start. Yeah.
Go to the McDonald's drive-thru. You fiend.
You fiend! These French fries are cold.
Eros explains that they came with friendly intentions, but the governments of Earth won't even acknowledge that they exist. Earthmen have minds that always develop bigger and bigger weapons. Eros just calls him stupid repeatedly.
Yes, he does.
There's a whole monologue about making sunlight explode, which is much worse than a nuclear bomb. It's something that humans will eventually discover. Since sunlight goes everywhere, they'll destroy every world in the universe.
It's all very scientific.
Sunlight goes everywhere.
Yeah, it would make the sun. It would
Blow
make
up the sun and all the
explode,
light that comes
and
out
all
of the
light
sun.
that comes from the sun would explode. And why would anybody do that? Because
Because humans are stupid.
Stupid.
Well, Jeff attacks Eros and things get crazy aboard the ship. The ship is on fire and the Earthmen get out. The flaming ship takes off and explodes with Eros and Tana on board. Clay turns to a skeleton, and they all assume the vampire woman has died as well. Criswell then reappears and asks, "Can you prove it didn't happen?" You know, I can't.
And like we said, it's not really a vampire woman, but she looks like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's undead.
Well, there's no blood, no gore, and very little acting here. It's obviously just a bunch of scenes stitched together to make a loose story. Bela Lugosi died after filming maybe 2 minutes of stuff, but since he was their big star, they used the footage anyway, and substituted a man hiding his face with a cloak for most of his scenes. The narration by Criswell is just atrocious and over-melodramatic. He wrote it himself because Ed Wood's script was too boring, but it's so over the top as to be really cringeworthy. Yeah, if you just want to watch the first 2 minutes of the movie, it's a good hint of what you're going to get into.
You get an idea, yeah.
The rest of the film's dialogue is it's just as bad. If this were released today, it'd be a fun, straight-to-streaming, low-budget movie. The only reason this is really considered so awful is in comparison to the studio-based films of that age. There are a lot of recent streaming films that are far worse. Still, it is very cringy in some places.
It is, but watchable.
I'm not sure if I'm going to say this is the worst one of the week, though.
It's kind of a toss-up.
Okay, just to take a little break from these awful films, let's talk about something that's pretty good.
Something good, yeah. Brink from 2023, a short film, which was directed by Jonathan, also written by Jonathan Blagrove. Stars Lisa Dwyer-Hogg and Tim Plester. Runtime's 4 minutes, 11 seconds.
It's a shorty short.
Yeah, it was. And it's on YouTube to watch for free.
Well, what happens?
Well, we open in a quiet suburban neighborhood, and there's a burglar outside one of the houses. Well, next thing we know, woman ties up a man inside.
Backwards.
No. Man ties up a woman inside after a brief struggle. And she says, "You're making a huge mistake. I know people who will fuck you up. We hear police sirens outside." Though, apparently he's broken in and tied up this poor woman.
But not everything.
But not everything is as it seems.
No.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have a whole story in 4 minutes, but this one does it and manages to be really good in the process. It was surprisingly well done.
Yeah, very clever little story. I liked it.
It's a whole story with really very little on screen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying a lot with a little.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of taking a little and making a lot out of it, 1959's The Killer Shrews, directed by Ray Kellogg, written by Jay Sims, stars James Best, Ingrid Good, and Ken Curtis. Hour and 9 minutes, trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. What happens?
They try to make a harmless animal seem deadly and dangerous here. But hand puppets and dogs in poor disguises don't quite cut it. It's got a story, things happen, and there's action and people to root for and people to dislike, but it's far from a great movie. It's really quite the opposite of a great movie. It really is.
I've seen this way more times than I want to admit.
Okay, again, and this was the first time I had seen this all the way through too. Somehow I had avoided all these years.
Well, now we know which of us is the smart one.
And if you're a Dukes of Hazzard fan, this has Enos.
No. Roscoe.
Sheriff Roscoe, as a young guy. Yeah. Younger guy.
And apparently back in 2012, they made a remake, or not a remake, it's a sequel to this, and he was in that too, and he's like 90.
Oh my.
I don't think he probably did much. It's a very hard movie to get. I keep looking for it. Have not found the second one yet.
Oh, that's strange.
Well, we're told that there have been new reports of a new invasive species coming from Alaska. They're called the Killer Shrews, as credits roll. All right, so Sherman takes his boat to a safe cove to ride out a storm along with the pilot Rook. They anchor off the coast and take a dinghy in. They meet Dr. Craigus and deliver the supplies he wanted. The doctor wants his daughter Anne to go back to the mainland with Sherman. No one is happy to hear that they can't leave today because of the coming hurricane. Rook decides to stay on the boat to make sure things are okay overnight. Well, Sherman and the rest go back to the doctor's fenced-in compound, where the doctor's assistant Jerry says the radio has been out of commission for a week. Sherman meets the nerdy Dr. Baines, another of Sherman's assistants. No one knew that a hurricane was on the way.
And right away you get the sense that
It's a very poorly run operation.
Yeah, and these people are nervous seeming. Like,
Yeah.
let's go now. Let's get off the island. Why? Well, because reasons. Because
Only the daughter
don't ask.
is
Just
going off the island.
okay.
They really are eager to get rid of her. The men want to stay.
Okay.
Well, Craigus explains
they're
that he's
hiding something.
Yeah,
clearly.
they are.
Yeah.
Craigus explains that he's trying to extend the lifespan of creatures to avoid eventual overpopulation by making them smaller. If we were half our size, we could live on half the resources. And they use shrews as experimental animals. Sometimes they're called bone eaters, he jokes. When Sherman asks how big they get, Craigus gives an evasive answer. So this whole thing is about miniaturizing people?
Yeah.
But instead they're taking shrews and making them bigger.
Well, that was an accident. They didn't mean to do that.
Oops.
Yeah, meant to make them smaller.
Anne yells at Jerry about drunkenly leaving a cage door open, which he doesn't appreciate. And Jerry is clearly jealous of Sherman. Meanwhile, Rook is outside trying to tying up and securing the boat, but he sees creatures in the woods, so he runs toward the house. He climbs a tree, but a pack of the animals following him is relentless. Before long, the branch breaks and the creatures eat him. They look like big dogs to me.
Yeah, they look like dogs wearing makeup. Well, costumes.
Sherman wants to go back to his boat, but Anne begs him to stay. It's not safe out there. She's serious enough that she pulls a gun on him. She tells him about the 200 or 300 giant shrews outside weighing up to 200 pounds each.
Holy cow.
Craigus comes in and explains the abnormal growth on one pair. They were mutants. Somehow they managed to escape. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
Then they bred out in the woods, and they're out there starving right now, so all they have to do is wait until they eat each other.
So their appetites remain the same. Yeah.
The power goes out, and the generator is outside the fence. Someone thought that was a good idea. The shrews dig in under the barn wall and eat the horse.
Yeah, if you've got a fortified compound, maybe keep all the infrastructure inside where you can get to it.
Yeah, you don't want your generator in the house, but they got a great big
But
walled
You got a yard.
compound.
Yeah, put it in the yard. That would be okay.
Well, they all decide to sleep on it and then make a run for the boat in the morning. When it's Jerry's turn to take the watch, he's drunk again, so Mario the servant does another pass. Mario finds that a shrew has gotten into the cellar, so he wakes up Sherman for help. They open the door and go downstairs. Mario gets bitten, but he shoots the shrew. It's only a leg bite, but Mario dies quickly. Could the bite be poisonous?
Indeed, it could be.
They used poison to kill the shrews, but instead they adapted to use it themselves. So they're poisonous killer shrews.
Oh, great.
Meanwhile, outside, the shrews are digging through the soft adobe walls.
Uh-oh.
Morning comes. Sherman and Jerry check out the path to the boat. Jerky Jerry points his gun at Sherman and threatens him, but Sherman's no wimp and easily turns the tables on the drunken assistant. They find the boat abandoned and decide that Rook must have been eaten. Jerry panics and runs, and then won't open the gate for Sherman, who climbs over. Sherman then beats the crap out of Jerry, who totally had it coming. He's about to throw Jerry over the fence, but changes his mind when he sees Anne watching him.
He's kind of sweet on Anne.
He's not so sweet on Jerry.
No, not at all. Jerry did have it coming, though.
He totally would have thrown him over the fence, though.
Yeah.
A shrew run-ins and nips Baines, who quickly collapses and dies from the poison. Jerry, in the meantime, wastes all their ammunition by shooting at the wall. The shrews get inside, so everyone moves out to the courtyard and barricades the walls. They find a big metal water tanks that Sherman thinks they can use as individual tanks to crawl under.
Literal tanks. Yeah. Turtle tanks.
Yeah, they're just like big wash basin kind of things.
Yeah.
And you can
Walk like turtle shells.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, he welds 4 of them together so they can leave as a group. Jerry refuses to go and climbs up on the roof. But Dr. Craigus, Anne, and Sherman get into the tank and open the gates. The shrews can't get them inside the metal tanks. After the tanks have gone, Jerry climbs down, thinking the coast is clear.
It wasn't. Jerry gets his.
Finally. And whines about not being able to make it, but they eventually hit the beach. The shrews don't follow them into the water, and the three swim to the boat, which is in good shape.
Good thing shrews can't swim, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
They leave, and Dr. Kraga says that within a day or two, all the shrews will have starved to death. It'll all be fine.
Yep, except there's a sequel.
Well, I don't think they planned on a sequel for like 60 years. So. How did an invasive species from Alaska show up on an isolated island first? The voiceover in the beginning says they're from Alaska, but the rest of the film says otherwise.
And I looked it up. There really are shrews in Alaska. They're not rodents, though. They're just little creatures, furry little creatures that look like rodents, but people often make the error that they're calling them rodents. They are not.
Okay.
But they're omnivorous little creatures that do have voracious appetites for their size. And
so if you're a shrew...
So they got a few things right in it.
If you're a shrew and you've been slandered, contact Kevin. He will advocate for you.
I will.
The shrews here are actually all hand puppets or dogs in costume. It's not really a ridiculous plot. You've seen giant monster films before. The funny part is the atrocious creature effects and the fact that they're basically just mutated mice.
They're not mice.
Of all the killer animals they could have chosen for this, why shrews?
Because they were available. Nobody had done it before.
Oh, that's true. Nobody had.
Yeah.
Which takes us to our final film of the week. Manos, The Hand of Fate, 1966. Manos in Spanish is hand. So this is the hand of fate.
Manos, the Manos. Manos el Manos.
Hands of fate, yes.
Yeah.
Written and directed by Harold P. Warren, stars Tom Naiman, John Reynolds, and Diane Adelson. And I'll tell you right now, I don't think anybody in this film did anything after this again.
Yeah.
1 hour and 10 minutes long, trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, it's a choppy, low-budget romp with mediocre acting and minimal effects. But it's got a story, and it was watchable in a sometimes cringy way. If you're a fan of movies you can make fun of, this one's for you. Mystery Science Theater 3000, I think this may be their most repeated movie.
They had a good time with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what happens?
Well, a couple and their child are on vacation, but they may be lost. But they sing and drive as credits roll. The police pull them over for a broken taillight, but they get off with a warning. And they drive to the lodge, and we get lots of shots of driving.
A lot of driving.
We cut to two teenagers in a car drinking and making out. The police stop them, break up their action, and send them home. Well, meanwhile, Mike, Margaret, and Debbie are still driving, and they are clearly lost.
Are we like a half an hour in yet?
Just about. And it's only 1 hour and 10 minutes. It is blissfully short, I'll say it for that. Say that for it, yeah. They stop to ask a strange-looking man for directions. I am Torgo. I take care of the place while the master is away. The master doesn't like children. He says there's no way to the lodge, so Mike asks if they can spend the night there. Well, Torgo seems to struggle with walking and moving and has weird legs, but for some reason Mike makes him carry all the luggage inside.
The dude looks like he needs
some
crutches or a walker or something.
He's the servant, I mean.
So we'll make him carry all the luggage all at once.
Well, I've seen people who have cerebral palsy before, and that's what he reminded me of, struggling to move, struggling with movement. I mean, he did it, but, it was effort for him. Plus, they had his legs, he was supposed to be a satyr.
You keep saying that. I don't remember them ever mentioning that.
They don't mention that.
Why do you?
We're supposed to know that. Well, it's in the trivia and everything you read about it. That's what they intended, that he was a satyr.
Okay.
And so he's got thick. In the implication, you see under his pants, he's got an oversized suit on and thick legs.
He never takes his pants off. If he's got like donkey legs or whatever, we don't see that.
Goat legs, yeah.
Goat legs, okay.
Yeah. Well, that disappointed me too. Because I read that in the trivia and the stuff about it and watching it, and I was thinking, there's going to be some reveal. We're going to see him without the suit.
Nope.
Or he's going to take his hat off and he's got horns. Or
Nope,
nothing. Yeah. Well, anyway, Torgo says the master has left this world, but he'll be coming back soon. He is with us always. Well, they look at a scary painting of the master and his evil-looking dog. That was a pretty cool painting. Not long after, Mike's own little dog gets out, and something in the desert kills it. Margaret screams, "What kind of place is this?"
Well, it's the desert. Little dogs get eaten there all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mike tells Torgo to load their luggage back in the car. Fast.
He doesn't load it fast.
So Torgo loads the luggage back in the car. Well, the car doesn't start. Torgo tells Margot that the master wants her as his wife. And then Torgo takes all the luggage back to their room again.
They needed like some little comedic music at this point, but no, it's all serious.
Yeah. Debbie goes missing as the three adults talk. All the doors are bolted, so she has to be outside. She's not anywhere inside. Well, she comes back with the master's Doberman in tow, but she's fine. She says she found the dog in a big dark place, and she leads them to a place with a bunch of women against pillars standing around an altar with a body on it.
These are like real women who are just standing up against these pillars in a coma or something. They're not tied up.
No.
They're not awake. They're all just asleep.
They're under the master's control. Torgo comes by, yells at the comatose women about being the master's wives, plays with the first wife's hair. And he gripes about it not being fair that master's got all these wives and he doesn't have any. Well, Torgo then comes back to the house and watches Margaret undress until she knocks Mike out, until Torgo knocks Mike out and drags him through the woods. Well, back at the altar, the master wakes up and sits up. We cut to the two teenagers running off by the being run off by the cops again. Oh yeah, that just seemed kind of pointless. The two teenagers.
The cops just keep picking on these teenagers.
Yeah, making out, and the cops keep saying, "Get on home." Well, the master prays to Manos over the fire. It's a whole ritual. He wakes his wives, and they're kind of a talky bunch. The women complain about the presence of a female child, Debbie. They want to sacrifice Mike, but not the child. The master insists that the child die, but the six women argue and disagree. And there's a whole kind of slapstick cat fight wrestling match among the wives.
It goes on for quite a long time.
It does go on for quite a while, yeah. Well, meanwhile, the master wakes Torgo back in the house and confronts him about playing with his wives. Torgo wants Margaret, and master says, "No, Torgo must die," and stares intently at Torgo for a while. It was just
kills him with his gaze.
Yeah. Well, his supreme hypnotic powers, I guess. Yeah. Well, one of the master's wives kisses unconscious Mike in the woods, but doesn't untie him. The fighting between the women is still going on. So Torgo and the master arrive to break it up. He orders the sacrifice of the lead troublemaker. Oh, and he wants to sacrifice Torgo as well. And the girls apparently slap him to death.
Slap, 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 slap.
Yeah, that's just so weird. Master gets Torgo up on the altar, and they just kind of slap him, and yeah. Well, Mike finally wakes up and gets out of his bonds. He tells Margaret that they can hide in the desert. The master makes Torgo gets up, put his hand in the fire, and it falls off. Torgo runs off, his arm on fire, as the master keeps Torgo's hand. And after this, he beats one of his wives.
Presumably, Torgo is dead at this point, but we don't know why.
He ran away.
Yeah.
He's not dead.
We never see him again.
Lost his hand. We never see him again,
Yeah.
but he ran off. Yeah. Mike, Margaret, and Debbie run through the desert and fall down a lot. The master and his wives go looking for the missing family. And then out of nowhere, Mike shoots the master repeatedly, but he just stares at them. They do end up back at the house. And the master's there, but he's bulletproof, apparently. Well, then we cut to a pair of women heading to the lodge as well. We see it's the same route as Mike's family took. There's a great deal more shots of them driving. They stop at that same house, and they are greeted by Mike, who is the new caretaker. And we see Debbie and Margaret standing up against the pedestals. They're both new wives for the master.
All right.
And that caught some heat, I read about, too, because master being a pedo. Debbie is clearly just a girl, and she is one of his wives at the end.
Yeah.
A little bit of ew there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
religious freedoms.
his
He can
harem.
marry 8-year-olds if he wants to, right?
His Manos harem. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not a Satan worshiper. He's worshiping Manos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a religion of its own. Yeah.
Well, the entire film, strangely enough, was shot silently, and all the voices and sound were dubbed later. The camera did not record audio. Not only that, but the camera could only record 32-second segments at a time, so you won't see any shots longer than 32 seconds. And yeah, it feels like a whole bunch of things just strung together.
It feels choppy.
Yeah, it does. And this is probably why.
Yeah.
The music is loud, screechy, and incredibly annoying. It's almost painful to endure at some points. The master has a very cool cape with hands on it.
That was one of the coolest things about it.
I like the cape, yes.
Yeah, and when he puts his arms out, you see the full spread of the cape, and it's got big red hands on it. It's awesome.
But otherwise, the costumes and the sets are all pretty lame.
Pretty lame, yeah.
Debbie, the little girl, was given a bicycle for her participation in the movie, while all the adults took a share in the profits.
What profits?
Well, the bicycle turned out to be the biggest thing.
Uh-huh.
Who knew the child could outsmart everyone with royalties? Well, the actor playing Torgo is said to have been on LSD throughout the movie, which is why he's so twitchy in every scene. He's definitely very interesting to look at. He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
The actor shot himself in the head and died a month before the premiere of the film. You think he saw the final version?
Don't know. Yeah.
There's something going on with that.
There are unanswered questions.
Or maybe
there.
he was on drugs. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad, but what really puts this at the over-the-top point is the god-awful screeching music. If they hadn't had to dub everything, and if they'd used more appropriate music, it might have been tolerable. Or, yeah, maybe not.
Or maybe not. Yeah. The painting and the cape. Those were the coolest parts of it.
The painting was neat, and the cape was good.
Yeah.
Let's make a movie out of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we're going to talk about this week. Like I said, over at horrorbulletin.com, you can read about 1940's The Ape, starring Boris Karloff. Yes, there is an ape.
And that was actually kind of good. I enjoyed that way more than I expected to.
It's another mad scientist story. And Basket Case from 1982. What's that in your case? It's my brother.
It's my twin brother. Whoops, spoiler.
Okay. So which one do you think is the worst of the week? Of these so-called legendary worst films, which one is the worst?
Oh, boy. The one... Okay, but what are we rating it on? The one I enjoyed the least? Or the one that I think is objectively the worst? Or what?
Which one did you enjoy the least?
What metric are we going with? Okay, I think I enjoyed the Killer Shrews the least of all these.
Okay.
Of all these 6 movies.
It's probably got the most coherent story of the bunch.
And yet I enjoyed it the least, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Which is objectively the worst?
Objectively the worst. Oh, boy. I'd go with Manos, the Hand of Fate. Overall being... I don't know, Plan 9. It's kind of a tie, I think, for Plan 9 and Manos.
Yeah, I'm going to say The Brain That Wouldn't Die isn't really that bad. It's just dumb.
Uh-huh.
The Killer Shrews isn't that bad. It's just dumb. Plan 9 and Manos, boy, those two are toss-ups. They really are.
They really are poorly made films.
If I were going to choose to watch one of them again, I'd probably go with Manos. So I'm going to say Plan 9 is the worst.
Okay.
I have no hopes of watching that one again.
You know, they remastered Manos, the Hand of Fate. There's a DVD where they remastered. You can watch the remastered version or the original Grindhouse version of Manos, and there's some special features. And the little girl, all grown up, I guess, was very instrumental in putting it together. And there's commentary. Her and somebody else has commentary on, like a commentary track. So that might be interesting to see in here.
We just watched the original basic version, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll be glad to move on to something else next week.
So some better movies, yeah.
Actually, no, we're not going to watch any movies next week. Next week, we're going to watch...
Shorts.
All shorts.
It's a shorts week.
1 week of solid shorts. We're going to watch a dozen different short films, Check those out over at horrorguys.com all through the week to watch. I think we're going to post 2 a week each day. And next week we'll talk to you about 12 short films. Ooh, good stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly, probably.
They do tend to be.
Yeah. Well, if they're really awful, we don't talk about them.
Right.
Okay, so till next week, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.